Let's get more on the situation in Victoria this morning. The state saw its deadliest day since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, and there was some good news though, with case numbers appearing to plateau. Steph Ferrier is in Melbourne for us. Steph, what's the latest?
Yes, good morning, Lisa. Sadly, a very sad day yesterday with 17 people losing their lives to coronavirus, including 2 men aged in their 50s. And as you say, it's the deadliest day in Australia since this pandemic began. 10 of those 17 deaths related to aged care. However, there is a glimmer of hope. The number of new cases has been steadily decreasing since last Wednesday's peak. As you mentioned, we had 394 cases yesterday. And of course, it's now a week since we had the start of those tough new stage 4 lockdowns across Melbourne. So officials are hoping that we'll soon start to see the effect of those in hopefully a continuing downward trend. But they're still concerned about yet another 174 mystery cases, or cases where they can't pinpoint the source. And there are also still 634 people in hospital, including 43 in intensive care. 26 of those are on ventilators.
And Steph, news this morning, an ABC story, a whistleblower has spoken to us about failures in hotel quarantine. What can you tell us?
Yes, this is a nurse who doesn't want to be named, and she worked regularly between April and June in half a dozen of these quarantine hotels. And she's told the ABC that staff at the Department of Health and Human Services who were at the facilities appeared to be more interested in fulfilling guest demands than actual infection control. And that's because they were rattled by a suspected suicide of a guest in hotel quarantine in April, just 2 weeks after this program began. So she says instead of these guests being isolated as much as possible, they were given extra fresh air and cigarette breaks. And unfortunately, she says some of these guests even took advantage of this more relaxed approach by communicating on social media and offering tips to other guests as to how to maximise their outside time. Now, she says that this meant that there was unnecessary extra interaction with staff, which did definitely increase the risk of COVID-19 getting out of these hotels. The Department of Health says that it would be inappropriate to comment on these latest claims, given that there is still that upcoming independent inquiry into the hotel quarantine issue.
All right, Steph Ferrier, thank you. And if you or someone who knows is experiencing distress, you can contact Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636 or Lifeline on 13 11 14. Now let's recap on the key outbreaks for Melbourne. Currently more than 1,700 active cases relate to aged care facilities. Some of the biggest clusters are in Epping, Fawkner, Ardea and Werribee. The other main area of concern for Victorian authorities has been outbreaks at abattoirs and distribution centres.
More than 200 cases have now been linked to 2 separate meat and chicken processing facilities in Thomastown in Melbourne's north. 125 cases have been linked to a similar facility in Brooklyn, while 83 infections have been traced back to the Australian Lamb Company in Colac, southwest of Melbourne. There are now 994 active cases in healthcare workers, with 109 infections linked to Melbourne Health's Royal Park campus in Parkville.
2 schools in Sydney have been closed after 3 students tested positive to COVID-19. All secondary students at Tangara School in Cherrybrook have been told to self-isolate for 2 weeks and get tested after 2 students contracted the virus. Our Lady of Mercy College in Parramatta will also be closed due to a positive case there. 10 new cases of coronavirus were confirmed in New South Wales yesterday.
The United States has now recorded more than 5 million cases of coronavirus as the global number of confirmed cases totals more than 19 million. The US is seeing about 54,000 new cases each day and has registered more than 160,000 deaths. Brazil, the second worst affected country, has now recorded 100,000 deaths from its 3 million cases. And New Zealand has warned against complacency as it marks 100 days without recording a single locally transmitted case.